So I think this is the last panel of the day and all have been already tired. But we'll try to make it quick and make it more interesting as we have an amazing set of panelists here present with us today. And the topic is itself more interesting as we are discussing inclusivity and like empowering inclusion and driving positive social impact. So we often talk about change, but real change happens when inclusion isn't just a box like to check, but it's also a mindset, a culture, and a commitment. It's also about making sure that every voice is heard, every individual has a seat at the table, and every action we take leads to something bigger than ourselves. So, welcome, ladies, and we are really honored to have you for this panel. And I'll just start the discussion by asking you all that inclusion is a widely discussed topic, but what does real inclusion look like in action? So, we'll start with Dharni.
Thank you so much, Ritika. Thank you, all my co-panelists, for this opportunity. Um, it's very interesting when you say inclusion, Ritika. The thought that automatically pops in most people's minds is inclusion of women in the workforce. So the only inclusion that comes to our mind every single time we talk about it is gender-based inclusion, right? But there is just so much more to inclusion, uh, which I think gets sidelined because just the problem of gender-based inclusion is so huge in India, and we haven't made too much inroads there. We are going there slowly, but there's a lot still to do. Once we are done with that, we'll see there are just so many more, areas that we have to work in. So inclusion is something that I see as an area where we need to work every day consistently for decades before we can have a panel like this and say, oh, we've done some really good work. As far as your question about how does it look in action, if you had a male colleague here, that would be inclusion in action. Yeah, this is an all-women's panel talking about inclusion. That's not inclusion in action. If you look at most corporates, at Suzlon, we have a very good focus on inclusion. But I think what happens in action is that we confuse inclusion as focusing on that one cohort or community that we are trying to include, and thereby in the process alienate the other, which could be in majority. So inclusion in action looks like a DEIB council where we consciously make sure that we have as many men as women, right? We don't want women making policies for women in the workforce, for women in leadership. We want that panel to be inclusive. Inclusion in action also looks more like giving more parental leave to the men so that the women can focus more at work. The point I'm trying to make really is that inclusion in action looks at holistic inclusion and doesn't stay in small segments or puddles of women, people with special skills. You want to include everyone and the majority as well in everything that you do for inclusion. Yeah.
So, moving to Malvika, we would love to hear your views on this.
Yeah, is the mic working? It's working, right? You all can hear me? Is this audible? Is this better? Okay, great. So, well, I think before I start answering your question directly, it would help if I was able to set context in what lens we operate and what inclusion means there. For instance, this is a very august gathering of experts, most of them from corporate groups, big bodies at very senior positions. But I run my foundation at a place called Dholpur, which is not very far from Delhi. It's maybe about 300 kilometers. And it's only 60 kilometers away from the world's largest touristic destination, that is Agra. And we're at a very unique intersection of a sangam of 3 states. So we're in Rajasthan, but we're very close to Agra in UP and Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh. Now, irrespective of the geographical location, just to set a little more context, the gender index in Rajasthan is about 928 women for every 1,000 men. And within Dholpur, it's the lowest in all of Rajasthan. We've got only about 857 girls for every 1,000 men. So these are realities which exist. I think it's important to set the context because when we talk about inclusion there, obviously the language is going to be very different. You have to resonate with the realities there, right? Also, Dholpur happens to be at the Chambal Ghats. There's a history associated to it, and there's a lot of poverty and backwardness that is associated with it. It is easily amongst the top 100 most backward districts of the country, identified by the Niti Aayog. So therefore, when we talk about inclusion, and I will talk about gender inclusion there, we go back to basics. We talk about access to education, access to health, access to financial literacy, and probably if you're able to put a little more money in their pockets via integrity, and that means access to livelihoods. So when we work through our programs, we try and create a holistic set of programs, and I'll tell you why. I think every person sitting in this room has not come here just because of a single factor. There are certain underlying factors which are common to us. We've all been to decent schools, we've had decent education. We've had an upbringing where we've had exposure to how life works. Hopefully, people have not struggled to put food on the table, right? So a system is working together in tandem with each other, and also health is something that is being accessed by all of us. We all can go and get access to health. It's not like the rural setup. And therefore, the definition of inclusivity changes there. Going back, like I said, education, financial literacy, health, very important. I'll link health to economics maybe in the next round of question, and then livelihoods.
Yeah, very well said. So moving to Tehseen, I would like to know how do you define inclusion and how do you see it evolving in your journey till now?
So I will say that now inclusion and diversity is a buzzword, but if I talk about myself as a child, I think it's embedded in my DNA, and I like to start with an anecdote, a small example of my childhood. So my father from a very small town in UP, it's a village, but he introduced this concept to us at a very, very early stage in life. So how it happened was that I always followed what I wanted to do. I never wanted to get restricted. So that was my personality. So one fine day, Arif Muhammad Khan Sahab, who's the governor now, he was the MP from Kanpur, and he was sitting in our drawing room. I, being my usual self, wearing a ripped jeans, and I colored my hair purple with a chalk in the school, I entered unapologetically, and I found that there's someone sitting in the drawing room. So my father, without any hesitation, said, come inside. And he introduced to Arif Muhammad Sahab, this is my elder daughter Tehseen. So he asked me what I'm doing and what I aspire to do, to which I fearlessly told him that I want to go into journalism, this is what I write, everything. And while we were talking, we heard a very, very, slight sound that someone is hesitantly looking. We peeped out, we saw it was my sister. And she was very shy, thinking that she has entered at the wrong time. So my father invited her to come inside. And then he said, Khan Sahab, this is my younger daughter. So he looked at both of us because my sister was covering her hair, wearing a hijab, confused on why she has entered, shy to sit on the sofa and talk, and she was not able to make eye contact. So my father said, introduce yourself. So she introduced herself politely. Arif Muhammad Khan Sahab looked at her, looked at me, and thrice he said, are both your daughters? So my father said yes. The third time my father realized that what he means by asking it thrice, he said, yeah, both are my daughters. She is the elder one, she is the younger one. Then he said in Urdu, एक हिजाब पहनती है, एक खिजाब पहनती है, and मैं दोनों से बहुत खुश हूँ. Both have their own identity. So this is how I started with inclusivity, and this is what we call. It is irrespective of gender, caste, anything else. It's how you accept the person to be. My second idea of inclusion, since I work a lot with rural women and rural population, that's my passion. So I again learned it from my father, who's my role model, that we had our mango orchards in our hometown. So when my father will go, after asking everything, he will tell the guard, the person who's the caretaker, saying, भाई ये तुम्हारा बाग है, इसका ध्यान तुम्हें ध्यान रखना है, ये मेरी चीज़ नहीं है, तुम्हारी है, मुझसे मत पूछो, जो तुम्हें करना है वो कर दो. Means he is giving the liberty and the authority to him to take that ownership and do what he feels best. So he will always say, don't ask me, take your decision, that's your baby. Similarly, I always saw that whenever he'll move out of that field, there will be a woman sitting in a corner who will be tirelessly working in the field. So my father will pause by and say, हाँ, तुम्हारा काम दिखता नहीं है, कितना काम किया है. So she will just smile and Papa will try to give some money to her and say, this is your own money and this is your own, work for your own work which you have done. So this is where I feel it's inclusivity. Coming back, because I always like to share examples, the third example. So at NDTV, Pranoy Roy was the then chairman, from whom we learned how to be inclusive while being empathetic and respectful. So we all were trainees running around on the news floor trying to meet timelines. What we were told was that to all the staff, from the kitchen, the drivers, to those who are helping, we are going to address them as sir. So till now, whenever I ask any support staff for help, I always say sir, and they look at me and they smile and they deliver. So it's a natural habit. So this is all the different ways of inclusion. Coming to inclusion at workplace, so again, a personal example, when I started taking a leadership role, it was with a foundation. So while I was getting myself introduced to the team and also understanding each team member's nature, what they like, what they aspire to be, there was a team member. 3 days he was very reluctant. I could feel his body language was not too welcoming and he was not too supportive of me leading the team for him. So the 4th day, when I opened up and he realized that, I am open to answers, the first thing he asked me was, what is your age? What is your date of birth? So I told him my date of birth honestly. And then I saw him making calculations in his mind, and the next day he started not taking my instructions and not, cooperating with me. 3-4 days I observed and I tried to understand what is the problem. So the first problem I learned was gender, that I was a female. The second problem I learned was that age, I was 3-4 years younger to him by age. So I understood what the ground problem is. Now as a team lead, and that's why I'm
So
doing this.
sorry to interrupt you, Tehseen, but as much as we love to hear more of your stories, we have such limited time. So I would like move to Gayatri. I would really love to hear your take on this.
I think I'll take a step further. I believe inclusion is a precursor to diversity. Okay, if we have inclusive mindsets, I think diversity just becomes an outcome. And from my personal example, I have had a similar upbringing, Tehseen. I come from a Fauji family, and where rules and regulations are extremely important. Never in so many years of my life, when I was being raised in a family, the rules were ever different for me or my brother. Okay, so if my father said that I have to be home by 8, my brother had to also be home at 8, right? So I think it starts with a very different mindset personally. Second is, I'll probably give an example of what happened at PepsiCo. We were running an early talent program, and this early talent program was definitely for, bringing in more women into the work stream, providing them equal opportunities, because that is something that we strongly believe in. And no way did we compromise on meritocracy. So that's the other call out that PepsiCo strongly believes in. When we were orienting them, one thing that we did from an inclusion standpoint was bringing their families into one of the sessions, right? Because we realized that if women, or for that matter, any of the other communities that we're talking about, our families, our extended society plays a very, very important role in terms of how empowered we feel, how independent we feel in our current work setups. And there were very, very basic questions that parents had, probably the local guardians had, which also made us think a lot of things in terms of what we should look at policies, how should we look at some of the processes that we are managing internally. And after that session, one thing that we realized was that if your extended ecosystem is convinced, okay, and they believe in any corporate setup or an organization, I think inclusion for that women, or for that matter anybody who's being a part of a larger ecosystem, comes in automatically. Also, it gave them a view in terms of how PepsiCo as an organization is inclusive, okay. It was not a requirement for us to bring in the extended families to talk to them or to speak with them, but I think it also talked a lot about how open as an organization we are, and we would want to look at how we value their mindsets. So I think these are the two examples that I will talk about from an inclusion standpoint.
Very well put. So moving forward, I would request all the panelists to please keep your answers brief, because as we have very limited time. So moving forward, you all work in different professional environment. So in your work places or work environment, how do you balance inclusion while keeping others' perspective in mind as well? So starting with, yeah, Harini.
You know, keeping inclusion in mind consciously is, of course, one thing. But I've realized that all of us, like she mentioned, come from, you know, privileged, better backgrounds. For us to have this drive and reach where we did may not be so remarkable. But there are so many people and so many women who've come from really very, I don't want to use the word regressive, but really regressive backgrounds where family was against them. They had to fight battles and reach where they have. Their stories are not something that we talk about. We just talk about stories where, you know, bachpan se hum bahut. But what about those women who didn't, right? And what I try to do in my team, I have a team of 20 at Suzlon right now, which works directly with me, and then an extended team of about 80 people. But the thing that we do a lot is we try to find stories of challenges. And those challenges are not just gender-based. So a person who's come from a village can't speak English, poor guy doesn't know how to write English, but now he's in a marketing role, and how is he dealing with that? And how are we making him feel inclusive? So I run a process, a very simple process of saying stories of challenges, and those are my heroes. And every week, literally every week in our team meetings, we have a 30-minute marked out only to talk about stories of challenges and how we can help you become better. And I think
really
those are the real
inspiring.
heroes
Yeah.
for us.
So moving to Anvika.
Right. So I'll highlight this through what I experienced about 3 years ago when I moved back to my native in Rajasthan. So my family runs a transport business, which means petrol pump, trucks, tires, etc. And I do come from a very, very conservative family. So when I went back and I had to start leading the business, my family was always questioning, why do you have to go to the pump? Why do you have to manage with truck drivers? Why do you need to handle, you know, bus conductors? Why do you have to manage the tires business? But you know, the string of support that I found was actually from my all-male staff. The day I went, be it the pump, be it any business, it was the male supports, because we only had male employees there, right? Who came forward and they became the backbone of support for me. In fact, there was this very interesting thing. You all would have visited fuel stations and you all would see that as a mandate, the office has large glass. It has a large glass in front of it. So when I used to sit inside the office, oftentimes from close by villages, people would come on their bikes and they used to just come and see, वो दीदी है जो पेट्रोल पंप बैठ के चलाती है, वो कौन सी दीदी है? And the initial 6 to 8 months were very tough for me, but when I found the real value was that when I took my foundation's work to the villages, and I used to go and I used to say, I used to give my introduction and I used to say, this is who I am. They used to say, दीदी हम आपको जानते हैं, आप पेट्रोल पंप पे बैठी थी. And there was receptivity there. So I think in inclusivity, rather than creating a gender divide and saying, you know, women need to do this and do that, the best advocates are actually men. It is the men who will go out of their way to make you feel included, and therefore it's very important to have them as participants within your ecosystem. And I do that now. For instance, when I run even menstrual health programs within my foundation, we used to get sanitary pads. And I was always a little embarrassed about calling them pads because I have men. So I used to say, kits aa gaye kya? Kits aa gaye kya? And I'll just tell you this one story. In one village, there was an argument where a senior elderly man came and said, what is she doing? Kapde ka tukda hi to baat rahi hai, because we are giving reusable sanitary napkins. It was the men who stood up there, took a stand and said, आपने अपनी जेब से कभी 20 रुपया नहीं दिया होगा अपनी बहन के लिए या अपनी बेटी के लिए, दीदी कर रही हैं. So when men start championing the cause, because the power equation lies with the men, I'm sorry but it does, that made my day, because it was a group of men arguing with another group of men for women rights, and I think that is the most important part of inclusivity.
So, Madhvi, what's your take on this? Oh, sorry, Gayatri.
So I think when we talk of inclusive mindsets, it goes a lot ahead in terms of what we are doing. So in PepsiCo, we are doing this initiative called Revolutionary, which is a nationwide movement where we are looking at empowering almost close to 10 lakh women over a span of 3 years. When we started on this journey, our ask was very simple, because we obviously were aligned with the government's objective of bringing in more opportunities for women. And when we did this program, there were a lot of moments of truth that came our way. Okay, one of the examples was one where we talked about the early talent program and we had the families coming in. But there were also anecdotes where, you know, there were women who were a part of our ecosystem now who talked about they came from families where, you know, they were their extended family or their parents were into a business which was into distribution of FMCG products. And they were the ones who were not in favor of them joining a sales workforce, right? And therefore, you can see the impact of representation of women in sales and supply chain. I think that was the first moment of truth that, you know, even if you have an ecosystem where you see that such kind of opportunities, career opportunities exist, but in reality, probably your family's mindset may not echo with the ones that we want to really, you know, go on our journey in. And that is when the biggest learning for us came in, that probably there are enough and more number of opportunities and women are not aware that how can they break barriers and come in and work in these very skewed representative, you know, functions like supply chain, sales across FMCG industries. I think that was one of the biggest learning for us from an inclusion standpoint. I will also say that inclusion is about inclusive mindset, not just about gender, but it is also about generations. Right? So in a corporate setup, I'm sure most of you will agree that we have a very significant number of Gen Zs coming in. Okay, so now we have Gen X, we have millennials, and we have Gen Zs. And a lot of us see a lot of memes on Instagram that how Gen Zs kind of react to the work that has been assigned to them versus millennials who are always in for saying, yes, we'll do it. I think a lot of this requires a lot of agility of mindset of people, because I have a Gen Z daughter. Okay, and now I think I heard Gen Alpha and Gen Beta also that has come in. So, and I think your personal experiences of dealing with your children also kind of shape your mindset, how you're dealing with your workforce or your people at the workplace. So I think it's a combination of many more factors.
Yeah, thank you so much for your perspective. Quickly moving to Tehseen, as our time is already up, but I would like all of you to quickly share one actionable step or maybe one lesson that you would want the organization or the professionals to adapt to promote more inclusion in their work and profession.
So for me, it's giving freedom. Give freedom to employees, give freedom of expression, freedom of thought, and be an active listener. Because once you will be an active listener and you will be empathizing with them and you will be giving them full authority, be it to millennials or Gen Z. Once they feel that ownership, there is no looking back, and that's my personal experience with dealing with all generations, dealing with all genders, all kind of, you know, employees, colleagues. Once you give them that space which they deserve, you will get the best out of them without micromanaging. That is what is inclusivity for them. And believe me, each one of them will have their own unique ideas, own unique identities, and own unique ways of working. Someone will give a very good outcome at night, while the other person will give a very good outcome in the morning. So leave it to them, and rest assured everything will be taken care of.
Thank you, Tehseen. Quickly moving to Malvika. What's
Right.
to
So
advise.
I'll throw in a quick data which is very important also for all the women here. So there was
Can
a
you please
McKinsey,
make it quick? Yeah.
McKinsey had thrown in a global research last year, which said globally women spend 25% more time of their lives in poor health as compared to men. Okay, and that severely impacts your productivity because it's directly linked to economics. So I think we need to focus on the health of women, certain traits which would manifest differently in women or will happen only in women. So let's try and look at health also from an inclusivity and an economic standpoint. Make sure they're all healthy women all around. I think that would play a very critical role in inclusion.
So, Dharani, what's your advice?
Very quickly, I became a mother at the age of 41. I had my son when I was 41. It's very close to me, you know, motherhood and how women during pregnancy and after they become mothers, how they are treated at the workplace. Especially when you had a 41-year-old head of a function, you know, vice president becoming a mother, the organization went into shock. They're like, oh my God. मतलब बच्चियां होती हैं यार, head of a function, and all the policies that were made for women are now looked at, oh my God, now she's going to be gone, and you know, all of that. The first thing we need to do is decriminalize motherhood at work. No woman who gets pregnant should be scared of how do I tell my boss. No woman who's carrying another life in her body should be stressed about, oh my God, all the critical projects will be taken away from me. No woman should be told, you're pregnant, you're not ill. Yeah? So if we can just provide a healthy, supportive environment for women who are also mothers, going back to Malga's point of thereby having healthy mothers, healthy women, healthy children, I think that'll be a huge, huge steps towards inclusivity.
Thank you so much. And lastly,
I will just say, I'll probably, because I could hear a huge buzzer out here. I think it's very important when you choose for inclusion, you provide a psychologically safe environment. For anybody and everybody, I think inclusion will happen automatically. The moment, whether it's a corporate setup, it's a home setup, it's a rural setup, it's an urban setup, the moment all of us are aware and are conscious of the fact that everybody wants to feel psychologically safe, true inclusion will really happen.
yeah, thank you so much for sharing your stories, experiences with us. And I think it's a great panel. So, really, a round of applause for all of them. Thank you.